بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وآله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه أما بعد. After the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah had been signed, the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims had a truce, which meant that the Prophet ﷺ could concentrate more on the internal affairs of Medina. And what do we mean by that? Now he's not worried about what will happen with Quraysh or the campaigns or the expeditions in pursuit of their trading. Now he can focus on the internal affairs of the Jews, the hypocrites, and the Arabian nomads and tribes around Medina who were just waiting for the right moment to strike. And this is what he had done as soon as he went back, alayhi salatu wasalam. He targeted the village of Khaybar. And Khaybar was a very fruitful and cultivated land, famous for its farms and its fortresses. So they had like 8 fortresses, very strong, which suited the style of fighting of the Jews. The Jews don't want to fight in an open land. So the Prophet ﷺ asked the Muslims to come and deployed an army of about 1,600 men to attack Khaybar. Why? Because all those who plotted against the Prophet ﷺ and fought against him and collaborated with the enemies of Islam were in Khaybar. So he had to flush them out. Banu Qaynuqa', Banu Nadir, Banu Qurayza, or who's ever left of them and who had fled already. They all went either to Syria, but the majority remained in Khaybar. So the Prophet ﷺ went as it was payback time. A long story short, there were skirmishes, fights, and the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims besieged Khaybar until they surrendered. And they wanted a settlement. And the Prophet ﷺ gave them this settlement. When the Prophet ﷺ agreed with them that they stay under the supervision of the Muslims, and they and the Muslims share half of the crops of Khaybar. And they agreed to do this. However, the Prophet ﷺ told them that there is no ultimatum for this. There is no end of contract. Whenever we feel that it's time for you to leave, we will kick you out and you will leave the whole land to us. Again, the Prophet ﷺ, in the same year, the 7th year of Hijrah, went after 1 year of Al-Hudaybiyah, which was on the 6th year, the treaty. A year later, it was agreed that the Prophet ﷺ would come with the Muslims, and they were about 2,000 of them, if we're not counting the women and the children, to make up for the Umrah that they were prevented from making. And they went and performed their Umrah, and the Prophet encouraged the Muslims to show the enemies of Islam strength as they came traveling and they went for Umrah. The people of Mecca thought that they would be tired or even sick because of the fever of Medina. Yet they showed strength and agility while performing the Umrah, and they stayed there for 3 days as was agreed. And the Umrah was done in the month of Dhul Qa'dah, one of the sacred months and also one of the months of Al-Hajj. The 7th year of Hijrah also witnessed the return of the migrants who went to Abyssinia. So now they heard that Islam has been established and that they can worship Allah freely, so they came back. Among them was Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ and the brother of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the Prophet was happy for their return. Not only that, he also gave them a share of the booty of war of Khaybar and gave them some land. In the beginning of the 8th year, which is in the month of Jumad al-Awwal, the Prophet ﷺ deployed an army. And this army was supposed to go to the north of Arabia, where Al-Harith ibn Umayr, may Allah be pleased with him, who was the Prophet's messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was intercepted by the disbelievers. And when they knew that he was going to address one of the kings of the northern part of Arabia, they killed him. Despite the fact that it is a well-known fact in Arabia and elsewhere that the messengers are never killed. So the Prophet ﷺ, to avenge his companion and to make those who killed him pay for their crime, he ﷺ deployed an army of about 3,000 warriors from the Muhajirin and from the Ansar. Now, we have to know that they are about to meet the army of the Byzantines, representing the Roman Empire. So they're not going to meet tribes of the Arabs. These armies are well established, well equipped, and well organized. Nevertheless, they're not fighting on their own. They have Allah by their side and they have their faith in their hearts. So the Prophet ﷺ appointed Zayd ibn Haritha as their leader. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, put a succession plan. He said, if Zayd is killed, then Ja'far ibn Abi Talib takes over. And if Ja'far ibn Abi Talib takes over, then Abdullah ibn Rawaha takes over. And they went. And when they met, they remembered the advice of the Prophet ﷺ to them before setting off, not to kill a woman or a child or an old man, and not to cut trees, and not to